Thank you, Karine. New topic.
I wonder what it is.
No one expects the job of the U.S. press secretary to be an easy one.
But in those 3 years, it is true that Republicans have gotten in the way. They just have, Peter.
Karine Jean-Pierre certainly wouldn't have anticipated it to be a piece of cake upon assuming office in 2022. However, defending Joe Biden's gaffe-riddled first term,
my memory is fine. The president of Mexico, Sisi,
has often put her in the firing line of reporters, especially Fox News White House correspondent Peter Doocy. Recently, Peter Doocy owned Karine Jean-Pierre this time with her own logic, and guess what? Karine completely loses it.
That's a ridiculous question. No.
Why is that a ridiculous question?
Because American people should have their right to vote for whomever they want.
How did he do it? Well, this is something I'm eager to show you. Remember Doocy, who has a reputation for disgracing Biden with his unfiltered questions?
Wait. Let me take the one question from the most interesting guy that I know in the press. That's you.
Yes, that's him. Now let's begin with Peter Doocy versus Karine. Peter Doocy rattles Karine Jean-Pierre.
What is the White House trying to hide?
Nothing.
Over the last few years, Fox News White House correspondent Peter Doocy has developed a reputation as a thorn in the flesh for the Joe Biden administration.
Someone gave the president a statement to read on Tuesday that was incomplete at best, misleading at worst. Who?
Unfortunately for the White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, this is a problem she has to confront nearly every week on the job. From all video evidence available, Jean-Pierre does not seem a tad comfortable having to answer some of the bold, direct, and straight-to-business types of questions she gets asked by Doocy. Consequently, this has led to some very heated exchanges between the two, with Doocy mostly leaving Jean-Pierre exposed as either part of a cover-up or just plainly lacking depth in several broad issues.
You know, Peter, you've asked this question, or your colleagues have asked this question before. Let's not forget what we did here.
More recently, the two were at each other's throats again, and the scenes from their intense exchange were every bit entertaining. The topic of contention, President Biden's mental sharpness and the conflicting polling data surrounding it. During a White House press briefing, Peter Doocy wasted no time in addressing the concerns surrounding President Biden's mental sharpness. He directed his question to Karine Jean-Pierre, seeking her perspective on why more and more people believe that Biden is becoming less mentally sharp over time.
Karine, why do you think it is that more and more people polled feel like over time President Biden is getting less and less mentally sharp?
Doocy asked, cutting straight to the heart of the matter. Jean-Pierre, initially taken aback by the question, responded with a counter-question, seeking clarification on the specific poll Doocy was referencing. She wanted to understand the context and the basis for the claims being made.
Which poll is this?
Her tone reflecting a mix of curiosity and skepticism. Doocy promptly provided the information, citing ABC's polling data that showed a 5-point drop in Biden's rating for health since May and a 4-point drop for mental sharpness. Armed with this information, Jean-Pierre began to defend President Biden's mental acuity, expressing her confusion about the poll results. You know, I have to say that's a little confusing for me, because if you look at what this president has done in the last 3 years, he has achieved historical pieces of legislation, Jean-Pierre countered, her voice filled with conviction. She specifically highlighted the bipartisan infrastructure deal, emphasizing that many presidents before, including Doocy's favorite president, had failed to accomplish such feats. Curious about who she was referring to, Doocy interjected, "Who's my favorite president?" His question was met with a quick-witted response from Jean-Pierre, who challenged him to let the American people guess.
Why don't we let the American people guess? But had said, wait, no, let me finish. You asked me a question.
Jean-Pierre retorted, determined to make her point. The exchange between Jean-Pierre and Doocy grew more intense as they continued to spar over the significance of President Biden's achievements. Jean-Pierre highlighted the transformation of Infrastructure Week from a punchline to an actual decade of infrastructure progress under Biden's leadership. She cited the CHIPS and Science Act and the Inflation Reduction Act as examples of legislation that would have a lasting impact for generations to come. These are legislations that will have a difference for generations to come, right? And so this is something that this president has done. That's pretty sharp for this president to have been able to do that, Jean-Pierre asserted, her voice filled with conviction. As the clash continued, Jean-Pierre also took the opportunity to boast about the state of the economy under President Biden's leadership. She highlighted the decrease in unemployment, the creation of 14 million jobs, and the overall improvement in consumer sentiment. According to her, these achievements were a testament to President Biden's effectiveness effectiveness as a leader. The clash between Jean-Pierre and Doocy over Biden's mental sharpness showcased the stark differences in their perspectives. While Doocy raised concerns based on polling data, Jean-Pierre passionately defended President Biden's accomplishments and his ability to lead effectively. Unsurprisingly, the clash during the press briefing sparked a flurry of reactions from various quarters. Supporters of President Biden applauded Jean-Pierre's passionate defense of his accomplishments and her unwavering confidence in his mental acuity. They saw her responses as a strong rebuttal to the concerns raised by Doocy and a reaffirmation of President Biden's effectiveness as a leader. Critics, on the other hand, seized upon the exchange as evidence of a larger issue surrounding President Biden's mental fitness. They argued that the declining polling numbers and the need for Jean-Pierre to defend his accomplishments only served to validate their concerns. They saw Doocy's questions as a necessary inquiry into the president's ability to fulfill his duties effectively. Some people also found Jean-Pierre's responses evasive, accusing her of trying to deflect from Doocy's questions by mentioning an alleged political bias. They noted that when Doocy confronted her over the allegations of political bias, Jean-Pierre once again deflected in her response and provided no substantive proof to her claims. While supporters of the Biden administration believed that she handled the situation well, critics and neutrals were quick to point out that Jean-Pierre's bullish and evasive approach only served to further deepen concerns over President Biden's mental sharpness, as well as his ability to lead the country. Furthermore, the implications of the press briefing extended beyond the immediate clash between Jean-Pierre and Doocy. The heated exchange highlighted the challenges faced by the Biden administration in managing public perception of the president's mental acuity. The conflicting polling data and the need for Jean-Pierre to defend his accomplishments underscored the importance of effectively addressing these concerns to maintain public trust and confidence. But this wasn't the only time that the two would be involved in a heated exchange. Just a few weeks later, Peter Doocy was back in the White House to cause some more problems for Karine Jean-Pierre. However, this time Doocy came prepared and ready to beat the White House press secretary at her game. The White House briefing was on the heels of former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley suspending her campaign after a disappointing Super Tuesday. As the first presidential debate loomed on the horizon, tensions were running high, and the question of whether Biden would face off against Trump became increasingly pressing. Doocy, the relentless Fox News White House correspondent, wasted no time in posing the question to Jean-Pierre during the White House press briefing.
Is President Biden going to commit to a debate with Donald Trump?
That's something for the campaign to speak to.
But Doocy was not deterred. He pressed further, emphasizing that the dates and locations of the debates were already known, and inquired whether Biden would attend.
We know when the debates are going to be. We know where they're going to be. Is he going to go?
You should speak to the campaign.
Once again, undeterred, Doocy read a quote from Biden in 2020, where he expressed his eagerness to debate Trump, saying he could hardly wait. Sensing an opportunity, Doocy asked, "How about now?" Jean-Pierre, seemingly frustrated, replied, "I'm going to sound like a broken record. You should reach out to the campaign." It became clear that the White House press secretary was unwilling to address the issue directly, insisting that it falls under the purview of the campaign. As the exchange continued, Doocy questioned why the debate was being treated as a campaign matter. Jean-Pierre explained, "Because it's an election. It's a debate for the 2024 presidential election." Doocy clarified that he wasn't interested in the content of the debate, but rather Biden's attendance. Jean-Pierre reiterated her stance, stating, "You need to talk to the campaign." The debate took an intriguing turn when Doocy asked whether Biden's decision not to attend would further raise questions about his mental acuity. Jean-Pierre swiftly shifted the focus to Biden's legislative accomplishments, highlighting his work on infrastructure and the CHIPS and Science Act. However, Doocy persisted, seeking clarity on the possibility of no debates between Biden and Trump in the fall. Jean-Pierre responded with a question of her own, asking, "Is that what you're excited about? Is that what you want to see?" Doocy expressed his desire to witness a debate between the two candidates, but Jean-Pierre reminded him that he had already asked the same question multiple times in different ways. While Peter Doocy persistently sought answers from White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, it became evident that the issue of Biden's debate commitment was being skillfully evaded. Jean-Pierre consistently redirected Doocy to the campaign, refusing to provide a direct response. This strategic maneuvering only fueled speculation and raised eyebrows among political observers. In response to Doocy's inquiry about Biden's performance in a debate, Jean-Pierre pointed to his previous confrontations with Republicans during the State of the Union address. However, it is worth noting that the Democratic National Committee, DNC, refused to hold primary debates, despite Biden having to contend with primary challengers such as Marianne Williamson and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Kennedy eventually switched his party affiliation to independent, while Democratic Minnesota Representative Dean Phillips entered the race but suspended his campaign on the same day as Haley. As the 2024 election season kicks off, the stage is set for a potentially explosive showdown between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, but the question of whether they will actually engage in a debate remains unanswered. The implications of Biden's potential decision not to attend the debates are significant. It raises questions about his willingness to engage in a confrontation with Trump and the potential impact on voters' perception of his mental acuity. The absence of a debate between these two candidates would undoubtedly leave a void in the political landscape, denying the American people the opportunity to witness a clash of ideas and policies. As the 2024 presidential race unfolds, the stakes are higher than ever. The decision regarding the debates will undoubtedly shape the trajectory of the campaign and influence the outcome of the election. Will Biden ultimately commit to facing off against Trump, or will he choose a different path, leaving voters and political pundits alike in suspense? Karine Jean-Pierre's decision not to provide answers to Doocy's questions has only created more doubts over Joe Biden's ability to lead the American people beyond 2024. Interestingly, these aren't the only times Jean-Pierre has made the headlines due to her unorthodox methods while fielding questions from White House correspondents. She has had quite a few viral moments since taking over the role in 2022. Karine Jean-Pierre's most memorable clashes with reporters.
It sounded like he was implying that because his garage is a safe place for his car, the documents were safe. And therefore, if it was safe for the car, it was safe for the documents. Is that what he meant?
Look, I'm going to just leave his statement as is.
Throughout the year 2023, Jean-Pierre found herself at the center of intense scrutiny and heated exchanges as she faced tough questions and accusations from journalists. From confrontations about President Biden's mishandling of classified documents to debates over budget responsibilities and allegations surrounding Hunter Biden, these clashes showcase the challenges and tensions that arise in the press briefing room. Furthermore, Karine Jean-Pierre's tendency to deflect questions from reporters always exacerbated situations and pushed some White House press corps members to suggest that Jean-Pierre was censoring reporters. So let's dive into the captivating world of politics and explore Karine Jean-Pierre's most memorable clashes with reporters. One of the most memorable White House press briefing clashes in 2023 was when Jean-Pierre clashed with CBS News correspondent Ed O'Keefe on President Biden's mishandling of classified documents. In January of 2023, the White House found itself embroiled in controversy as classified documents from President Biden's time as vice president were discovered at the Penn Biden Center. This revelation sparked a heated clash between White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre and CBS News correspondent Ed O'Keefe during a press briefing. O'Keefe, known for his tenacity in seeking answers, wasted no time in pressing Jean-Pierre on the issue. He reminded her of President Biden's previous criticism of former President Trump for keeping classified documents at his Mar-a-Lago residence, calling it irresponsible. O'Keefe's line of questioning aimed to hold the current administration accountable for similar mishandling of sensitive information.
You can read the transcript of what was asked of him and why he responded that way. I'm just not going to get into specifics.
Jean-Pierre, however, refused to go beyond what her White House counsel colleagues had previously stated on the matter. She maintained that she would not provide any additional information, sticking to the official statements released by the White House. This refusal to answer O'Keefe's questions quickly escalated the exchange into a contentious back and forth.
So you're the one here
Yeah,
talking to us about this. That's why we're asking you. So let's just remember that.
O'Keefe asserted, frustrated by Jean-Pierre's reluctance to address the issue head-on. Attempting to diffuse the tension, Jean-Pierre interjected,
When he was asked yesterday.
Ed, we don't need to have this. We work very well together. We don't need to have this kind of confrontation. Ask your question, and I will answer them the best that I can.
O'Keefe, undeterred, fired back, emphasizing the role of the press in holding the administration accountable.
Part of the reason we're laying that out is because you're laying out your part of the job.
I know, but I'm just saying that we don't
He
need.
retorted. The clash continued as Jean-Pierre urged O'Keefe to focus on the substance of his question rather than engaging in confrontation. I know, but I'm just saying we don't need to have contention. You don't need to be contentious with me here, Ed, she responded, attempting to steer the conversation back to a more civil tone. Despite Jean-Pierre's efforts to redirect the discussion, O'Keefe persisted, determined to hold the press secretary accountable for providing answers to the American people. The clash between the two escalated, highlighting the inherent tension between the press and the White House. This memorable clash between Karine Jean-Pierre and Ed O'Keefe underscored the challenges faced by the press secretary in navigating sensitive issues and maintaining transparency. It also demonstrated the determination of journalists like O'Keefe to hold those in power accountable for their actions. As the year progressed, Jean-Pierre would find herself in similar clashes with other reporters, further fueling the ongoing debate surrounding freedom of the press and the role of the White House in providing accurate and timely information. In April of 2023, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre found herself engaged in a fiery clash with NBC News correspondent Kristen Welker during a press briefing. The clash centered around the conflict between congressional Republicans and President Biden regarding the raising of the debt ceiling and the responsibility for the budget. Welker, known for her incisive questioning, wasted no time in challenging Jean-Pierre on the issue. She questioned whether everyone, including the president, bore responsibility for the ongoing conflict. Welker's line of questioning aimed to shed light on the role of the administration in finding a resolution and avoiding potential economic consequences. Jean-Pierre, visibly agitated by Welker's line of questioning, insisted that the conflict was a political stunt orchestrated by the GOP to force spending cuts. She placed the blame squarely on the Republican Party for refusing to pass a clean bill and accused them of wasting time. But doesn't everyone bear responsibility, including and especially the president? Welker pressed, determined to hold the administration accountable for its role in the budget negotiations. Jean-Pierre, interrupting Welker repeatedly, emphasized that the responsibility to avoid default rested solely with Congress, particularly Speaker McCarthy and the MAGA wing of the Republican conference. She argued that it was up to them to get the job done and accused them of hurting American families who were already struggling to make ends meet. The responsibility to make sure that we do not default, it sits in the hands of Congress, and right now it is Speaker McCarthy and the MAGA wing of the Republican conference. It is up to them to get this done. They are wasting time, Jean-Pierre asserted, her frustration evident. Welker, undeterred by the interruptions, pointed out that President Biden had previously stated, "Show me your budget, and I'll show you what you value." She sought to highlight the president's role in the budget negotiations and the need for compromise. But Jean-Pierre repeatedly interrupted Welker, insisting that she finish the president's statement. "Well, you have to finish. You have to finish the statement." He said, "Well, you have to finish what he said." Jean-Pierre interjected, attempting to steer the conversation back to her talking points. Despite Jean-Pierre's attempts to control the narrative, Welker continued to press for answers. Again, Karine Jean-Pierre showed her adeptness at evading questions from reporters in June 2023, when she found herself at the center of a heated clash with them regarding Hunter Biden, the son of President Biden. The clash erupted after the House Ways and Means Committee released testimony from IRS whistleblowers alleging misconduct in the handling of the tax probe investigating Hunter Biden. Reporters from various news outlets including CNN, the New York Times, the New York Post, Newsmax, and NBC News pressed Jean-Pierre for answers on these allegations. However, Jean-Pierre remained steadfast in her refusal to discuss personal family matters, asserting that she would not engage in personal family discussions during the press briefing. "I'm just not going to get into family discussion, personal family discussion," Jean-Pierre reiterated, attempting to redirect the focus of the questions. Despite Jean-Pierre's refusal to address the allegations, reporters continued to press for answers. The tension in the room grew palpable as the exchange became increasingly heated. One reporter, New York Post correspondent Stephen Nelson, confronted Jean-Pierre directly, accusing her of ignoring his questions for 2 seasons. He called her out for disrespecting independent media and showing contempt for a free and independent press.
Go ahead, sir.
You should be ashamed
Go
of
ahead.
that.
Go ahead.
That shows
Go ahead.
disrespect to a free and
Go
independent
ahead.
media. It's a blacklist
I'm gonna
one of our
close.
country's largest and most widely read newspapers, Karine. That shows contempt for a free and independent press.
Nelson asserted his frustration evident. Jean-Pierre, attempting to dismiss Nelson's accusations, responded by calling on another reporter and deflecting from the confrontation. Nelson later took to his X account to elaborate on the issue, emphasizing the importance of a free press and expressing concern over the exclusion of the New York Post, one of the country's oldest daily newspapers, from press briefings. He highlighted the need for open dialogue and the role of the press in holding those in power accountable. In response to the clashes, White House Deputy Press Secretary Andrew Bates defended Jean-Pierre, stating that she represented President Biden with honesty, courage, and integrity. He commended her for fielding tough questions and emphasized her commitment to addressing the concerns raised by reporters. Despite the criticisms Karine Jean-Pierre has faced in recent times, she is no stranger to democratic politics. Born in Martinique, a French territory in the Caribbean, Jean-Pierre moved to the United States at a young age and quickly immersed herself in the world of politics. With a passion for social justice and equality, Jean-Pierre has dedicated her career to fighting for the rights of marginalized communities. Her impressive resume speaks volumes about her commitment to public service. Before joining the Biden administration, she served as the principal deputy press secretary for the White House, where she played a crucial role in shaping the administration's messaging and communication strategy. Jean-Pierre's experience extends beyond the White House. She has also made a name for herself as a political commentator for MSNBC, where she has provided insightful analysis and commentary on a wide range of political issues. Her ability to articulate complex ideas and engage with diverse perspectives has earned her a reputation as a trusted voice in the media landscape. Before her work in the White House and media, Jean-Pierre served as the Chief Public Affairs Officer for MoveOn.org, a progressive advocacy group. In this role, she worked tirelessly to mobilize grassroots support and amplify the voices of everyday Americans. On May 13, 2022, during a highly emotional press conference, Jen Psaki, the former press secretary, introduced her partner in truth and revealed that Karine Jean-Pierre would be taking over the role. This announcement marked a significant moment in history, as Karine Jean-Pierre became the first openly LGBTQ and Black woman to hold the position of press secretary. The news sent shockwaves through the nation, capturing the attention of people from all walks of life. Jen Psaki, who had been widely praised for her professionalism and ability to navigate the challenging world of press briefings, expressed her confidence in Jean-Pierre's ability to continue the administration's commitment to transparency and accountability. Psaki's emotional introduction of Jean-Pierre showcased the deep bond and trust between the two women, emphasizing the importance of their partnership in delivering the truth to the American people. The announcement not only made headlines, but also sparked a national conversation about representation and diversity in positions of power. Although Jen Psaki's time as press secretary was somewhat smooth, she still had several run-ins with reporters, and her tenure was key in the emergence of Peter Doocy as a thorn in the flesh for the Joe Biden administration. Doocy thorn in the flesh for Biden.
Do you think your place is a political liability?
That's a great asset. More inflation. What a stupid son of a...
This brings me back to Peter Doocy, the man who made the president cuss under his breath, the one also referred to as the thorn in the flesh of the Biden administration. Let's run through a sneak peek into Doocy's life before becoming a political critic. Doocy had a humble beginning and a passion for journalism. Born on July 21, 1987, in Washington, D.C., Peter Doocy grew up in a household that was no stranger to the world of news. Peter's father, Steve Doocy, is a well-known anchor on Fox News, and it seems that journalism runs in the family. From a young age, Peter was exposed to the inner workings of the media industry, sparking his curiosity and shaping his future career path. After completing his education, Peter wasted no time in pursuing his dreams. He joined Fox News in 2009 as a general assignment reporter, eager to make his mark in the world of journalism. His early years at the network were spent covering a wide range of topics, from local news stories to national events. As Peter gained experience and honed his skills as a reporter, it became clear that he had a unique talent for asking tough questions and holding those in power accountable. His relentless pursuit of the truth quickly caught the attention of both viewers and colleagues alike. With time, Peter's reputation as a tenacious reporter continued to grow, and he soon found himself covering high-profile political events and interviewing influential figures. But it was during the Biden administration that Peter's career took a dramatic turn. Peter's confrontational style and unwavering determination to get to the truth made him a prominent figure in the White House press briefings. He became known for his relentless questioning of Press Secretary Jen Psaki and his ability to put the administration on the spot. Whether it was about the origins of COVID-19, immigration policies, or foreign relations, Peter Doocy was not afraid to ask the tough questions that others might shy away from. One of the most memorable moments came during a White House press briefing in May 2021. Peter Doocy pressed Press Secretary Jen Psaki on the origins of COVID-19, specifically the possibility of it leaking from a lab in Wuhan, China. He asked, "Jen, can you confirm whether President Biden still believes that the COVID-19 pandemic originated from a wet market in Wuhan, or is he open to the possibility of a lab leak?" To which Psaki responded, "Peter, we have no new information to suggest a different origin. The intelligence community is still assessing the situation." But Doocy wasn't satisfied with the vague response. He continued to push for a clear answer, demanding transparency from the administration. "Jen, the American people deserve to know the truth. Will the administration support a thorough investigation into the lab leak theory?" Doocy questioned, this time his voice filled with more urgency. However, Psaki remained resolute in her stance, saying, "Peter, as I mentioned, the intelligence community is actively working on this issue. We will wait for their assessment before taking any further steps." Peter Doocy's persistence paid off when, just a few days later, President Biden ordered a thorough investigation into the origins of COVID-19, including the possibility of a lab leak. This was a significant moment that showcased the impact of Doocy's tough questioning. It forced the administration to take action and address the concerns of the American people. But Peter's confrontations didn't stop there. He continued to hold the administration accountable on various issues, including immigration policies and foreign relations. Peter Doocy's confrontations with the Biden administration have been nothing short of remarkable. He has a knack for asking the tough questions that others might shy away from. Love him or hate him, you can't deny his impact on the political landscape. As Peter Doocy continues to challenge the Biden administration, his reputation as a thorn in their side grows stronger. His relentless pursuit of the truth has made him a force to be reckoned with in the world of political journalism. The most significant event that demonstrated just how much of a pain Doocy had become for the Biden administration happened during a January 2022 White House event focused on combating inflation. President Biden, surrounded by reporters, was addressing the press when Peter Doocy, a well-known correspondent from Fox News, posed a question that would set the stage for a heated exchange. He asked, "Mr. President, do you believe that inflation is a political liability for you, especially ahead of the midterms?" Doocy's question struck a nerve with President Biden, who had been facing mounting criticism over rising inflation rates. The president, seemingly caught off guard, responded with a sarcastic tone that would soon escalate the situation. Thinking that his microphone was turned off, Biden responded, "Oh, absolutely not, Peter. Inflation is a great asset for any administration. We all love more inflation, don't we?" Unbeknownst to President Biden, his microphone was still live, capturing his candid response. But it was his next comment that would truly shock the nation. He added, "What a stupid son of a b***." The room fell silent as reporters and staff members exchanged glances, realizing the gravity of what had just transpired. Little did President Biden know that his words were being recorded and would soon make headlines around the world. Within minutes, the video of the incident went viral on social media platforms, causing an uproar among supporters and critics alike. The exchange between President Biden and Peter Doocy quickly became the talk of the town, dominating news cycles and sparking intense debates. This incident is not the first time President Biden has been caught using colorful language on a hot microphone. In fact, he has a long history of such slip-ups, often providing fodder for his critics. But what makes this particular exchange so significant is the context in which it occurred. Peter Doocy, known for his provocative style of questioning, has been a thorn in the side of the Biden administration. He regularly baits the president during press events, shouting over other reporters and attempting to catch him off guard. This contentious relationship between Doocy and Biden had been simmering for some time, and it finally reached a boiling point during this event. As the news of the incident spread, reactions poured in from all corners. Doocy's colleagues at Fox News, including the 5 co-host Jesse Waters, jokingly agreed with President Biden's assessment of Doocy. However, others condemned the president's derogatory remark, calling it unprofessional and beneath the dignity of the office. In the aftermath of the incident, both President Biden and Peter Doocy have addressed the exchange. Biden reached out to Doocy to apologize for his choice of words, while Doocy shared his perspective on the incident during interviews on Fox News programs. The incident has raised important questions about the role of journalists in holding public officials accountable and the boundaries of professional conduct. It also sheds light on the challenges faced by the Biden administration in effectively communicating its efforts to address issues affecting the American people. And these communication issues have become more apparent since Karine Jean-Pierre became press secretary in 2022. Rather than communicate, she has allowed her press briefings to become more of a sparring contest with reporters, especially Peter Doocy. If you enjoyed this video and would like to get more of this type of content, ensure to click on the card showing on the screen.